Donald Trump gone too far? Well, I can nitpick at how vague that question is. What is too far exactly? Are his tweets too long?
You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
The spiritual battle is coming to the West, and the enemies are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. And the American way of life is very simple. I want to be able to get married, buy a home, have kids, allow them to ride their bike till the sun goes down, send them to a good school, have a low-crime neighborhood, not to have my kid be taught the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school, while also not having them have to hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. That's important. We want the American way of life, which is, by the way, Christendom. Christians, our sacrifice, our toil, our vision, the outgrowth of the scriptures gave us Western civilization. And this is where I think is a great rallying cry. Doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, doesn't matter if you're Asian, doesn't matter if you're black or white. Everybody, if you are Christian and Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, these two threats are combining forces to come after us. And it's time that the church stands and rises up against it.
Yep.
Is that whether it be, this is going to be controversial and I don't care, whether it be the plantation or whether it be government benefits,
the
philosophy of the American left is to keep black Americans under their control.
But it's the church. We must first look at ourselves as the reason why this is happening. The cancer of transgenderism, which is from the pit of hell, spreads as a virus throughout our nation and our land, largely because pastors and Christians have been afraid to correct error with truth or contest in the public arena. I'm starting to see that change. And you know what's so amazing? Is that most of the kids that tend to attend our events, by the way, tomorrow at UCLA, we can't find a room big enough to fit all the students that want to attend our speech at UCLA tomorrow. They're not necessarily all religious, but they're searching for truth. And what an amazing opportunity for revival and for an awakening.
The things that Charlie Kirk said, shall we? And let's start off with the sexist statements. He made many comments about birth control, women's attractiveness, women's rights. He said birth control made women angry and bitter. He said that females over the age of 30 aren't attractive in the dating pool, and suggested that young women were suffering because they were focusing on work rather than having families. This is 1950s level shit. He promoted a model where women should see men as protectors and leaders, which marginalised women's autonomy and our diversity of purposes as entire human beings, not just fucking breeders. He condemned being gay at its very core by quoting Leviticus. He had opposition to gender-affirming care. He described progressive sexual or gender-based policies as sexual anarchy. And what about the racism? He once said, and I quote, "If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, is he qualified." He called George Floyd, the murdered black man, a scumbag. He denied that there was any such thing as white privilege and made many comments about the Great Replacement theory. The conspiracy that, certain demographics are being replaced, mostly white people, by brown and black people. He said it wasn't just a theory, but it's a reality. It's okay to have a nuanced opinion on this. Someone's opinion on this is nuanced. Things aren't black and white, and we're falling into black and white thinking more and more nowadays. You can't summarise your views on Charlie Kirk in a tweet. Although the same people being attacked today for expressing any form of opinion on Charlie Kirk are the very people that he targeted and the very people that would be most at risk under a far-right government. lifestyles. Kirk died as a consequence of the very gun laws that he defended, and his entire platform relied on radical messaging, authoritarian approaches, the same that cultivates a feeling of fear and panic and suspicion, and the kind that might prompt extremism as a retaliation. Does that mean that he deserved to face what he did? Nobody deserves to face that. But as I said at the beginning, when you cultivate a feeling of fear and panic and paranoia in people, or you target demographics and increase their risk of hate crimes, you're vastly increasing the chances that there will be a retaliation to that language. Nobody is obligated to feel empathy or express empathy. And one of the things that I find the most galling in situations like this is when people pearl clutch and become the morality police and tell the communities impacted by his language and his rhetoric that they must show empathy. That's not how it works. The only way you reduce the risk of this happening again is by ending the culture wars and the hatred. But just watch MAGA capitalise on it.
I just want to say that, like, the first thing I want to say is that I'll never condone violence, especially when violence is being used as a deterrent against nonviolent behavior, regardless of the nature of those beliefs or views that are being spread. But I feel like if your quote unquote beliefs or viewpoints, worldview, your stance is one where the person openly encourages hate, bigotry, discrimination against multiple entire groups of people at this point, then at that point I also believe that whatever happens to you is pretty much just basically karmic. Like you can't just go around spreading messages of hatred, bigotry, and intolerance towards entire ethnic groups of people. Like, for example, especially people like me, like queer people, black people, women, Islamic people, basically anyone who isn't a straight white person. And then people expect people like me, the people he targeted, like the people who he openly spoke against, people who he never had any empathy or sympathy towards. And then people get surprised when people don't have any empathy, don't have any sympathy, don't feel bad for what happened to them. That being said, like I said again, I would never condone violence towards anyone who's being nonviolent. But at the same time, it's the energy you put out there matters. The messages you put out there matters. And if you're spreading hate, then don't be surprised when hate returns to you. Like I'm not gonna say an eye for an eye, because in this case I don't think it's an eye for an eye. Yes, the shooter went too far, but it's only but violence is a natural response towards hatred. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Your homie J-Rebel out.